Hello guys and gals, you see what I did there? It's called equity. Here I have my volume mask on Instagram. I think I worked on this about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and it was really one of my favorite projects. I had a lot of fun Keyshot with just new materials and lighting and camera settings and a lot of other things. So the reason I have this picture pulled up here is because of the HDRI lights that I used. This is a good example of a good use of HDRIs. So as you may have guessed, today I'm going to be showing you how to use the HDRI lights, how to use environmental lights, and how to use just regular solid lights. So let's get started. Okay, so here in my scene I have two regular solid bodies that I brought in from the Keyshot library, from the models library, and we're gonna play with these. So the first thing, or the first light source that you usually learn is just the basic material, the light material. If you go to your materials library, you can see that there is a section called light, and there are a bunch of different lights. If you hit this positive or the plus button, you can see that there are different sections: area light, emissive, spotlight. I may have gone through emissive before, I'm not sure, but the most common one that I have used before is just the area light. And area light, it lights up the whole area. So you can easily drag and drop it into your material. So now you can't really see anything. What you want to do, you want to go to environments, and you want to go to settings, and you want to turn down the brightness. And let's just see what happens. So this is completely dark, and you see that we have our light source there. This is, again, just an area light, so it lights up anything that's around it. It doesn't have like a specific axis like the point light or the spotlight. So if you want to increase the brightness, just double click on it, and it's on lumen. From some other YouTubers, I have heard that lumen, I guess, is the most accurate light source. I'm not sure about that. I don't think there's any like major difference between lumen, watt, or lux. But just keep it on lumen if you want to. Keep it on watt if you want to. Doesn't matter. If you move to watt, as you can see, watt is much more stronger. And obviously, like for example, you don't want 1200. You want only 12. So you make that dramatic effect for your product. And there are some different options here apply to front of geometry. So right now we have a sphere, so it doesn't really have a front or a back. But like say if you had a cube, you could turn off or turn on apply to front of geometry, or vice versa. And you can also uncheck this one, visible to camera, and it's gonna disappear, but you still have the light source. Visible in reflections, if you did have like a reflection on the ground, then this would be pretty much invisible. And visible in shadows, you're gonna have to have more complicated scenes to just know what these two options do. And samples, as I have mentioned it before, if you increase the sample size, it will increase the quality of the light. I'm not sure how much it's gonna actually increase the quality, but just increase it if you want to. I usually keep it like less than 100. So we're just gonna put 50 for now. And again, there are different area lights here. And you can also just say this was plastic or flats. I have gone through that before. You can just double click on it, and you can go here in the type section, and you can actually change your material from this drop-down menu to area lights. So another one is advanced. I've never worked with advanced before. I started learning HDRI, so I just kind of like stopped using all these light materials. Emissive, it's not, I guess, as bright as area light. Emissive is just like for buttons. It's a very small light source. It's only good for itself per se. So if you have a button on like a say calculator or something and you want to light it up, emissive would be the right material to go with. Now with emissive there is something else that I want to mention, and that is bloom. So if you turn on bloom, and again, this scene is very simple. So if you had more complicated scenes, you can actually increase the bloom radius and bloom intensity, and as you can see, it just like adds that blurry, shadowy effect around your emissive object, which adds more realism to your renders. So I'm just going to turn it off, and we're going to go back to our scene. IES light, I'm not sure what it is. Let's take a look at it. Well, I guess this is the IES light, and it is this. I've never used it. I don't think I've ever used it, but I guess it would just give you more options, more things to play with. It looks pretty simple. It just looks like point lights or spotlights. You change the axis of the light. You play with the settings, and I'm not sure where you would want to use something like that. But I guess if you really want to be accurate with your light source, I guess you could use this. Another one is point lights. Point light. No. Point lights. And point lights is as the name suggests, it's just like a point. It's like a dot. Let's change this to watt to see what's going on, and that's basically it. Very simple. You can also move the sphere, or you can move the sphere like that, and apparently nothing happens. So it's just point light. It's just like a direct light source. Spotlight is something that I've used before, and it can be helpful, I guess. It's just basically this. It's very simple. Let's change this to watt, and it gives you more options to play with your light source. And let me actually just turn this down. It's a lot. 20 beam angle. You can just manually change the beam angle. Fall off. I've mentioned this before. What fall off is the blurriness of the edge around your light source or your material or your texture. Radius increases the radius. Color stencil diameter. I have no idea what this is. So yeah, just try to figure this out on your own, because I have no idea what this is. I feel like a lot of these options are just redundant. But this is not the exciting part. The exciting part is actually the use of HDRIs. When you learn how to use HDRIs, you just forget about all these light textures or light materials. So let's go to the HDRIs. So with HDRIs, what you want to do, well, what I want to do right now, I want to go back to my brightness. I just want to bring it back to what it was. And I'm just gonna, actually let's just change the material of this to plastic. And let's just keep it as is. And let's change the material of this one to metal, for example. And actually let's just make something look more dramatic, or I guess a little dramatic, not more dramatic. Just, I don't know, something like that. And we can do with our object, so it sticks to the cube. Yeah, something like that. So, something that it's bothering me right now, it's the camera settings. I hate this the default 50mm perspective focal length. I usually go with 65 or 70, and I like 65 or 70 better. And another thing that's bothering me is the background. The background is just gray right now, but I'm gonna go over that for the HDR stuff. So let me just change the roughness of this to 0.1, and let's change the roughness of this to 0.5. No, that's too much. 0.1 is fine. So HDRI, I don't know what it stands for. Let me know if you know what HDRI stand for, but yeah, it's just like external light sources. So what you want to do, you want to make something look dramatic, for example. You want to have multiple light sources, but you don't want to have multiple solid bodies. You don't want to just move everything around. You don't want to go to geometry mode, and it's just a hassle if you want to have 5 different light sources and you want to use solid bodies for them all. So that's why you want to do HDRIs. So one thing you could do, you could actually well, let's change the lighting or the background to color, white, completely white. And let's turn on flat ground, let's turn on occlusion ground shadows, and let's bring the brightness down a little bit. And you can see that the 2 solid bodies are being affected, but the background isn't affected because the background is just a solid 2D picture of just white. So we change the color and we want to go to HDRI editor. So honestly, I haven't used any of these before, other than just the first one, because that just adds a light source. But for example, if you want to add a gradient pin, go ahead and use it. If you want to, add an image pin, go ahead and use it. I guess if that copies the existing light source, I don't know. But if you just hover over each button, it tells you what they do, and as I've mentioned before, just playing the Keyshot, it's actually kind of fun. So I'm gonna actually the background. Okay, so the background is right now it's on image, and image means the light source. This environment, that's the image. Or if you have a 2D image, then that would be the image. So I'm gonna change it to color, and I'm gonna go completely black. And now we're gonna add some light sources. So let's change this to lighting environment, and then I'll change it back to white. So if you add this, that will just add a pin, and as you can see, this showed up at the second I hit the add pin button, and it says Control plus LMB. LMB is the left mouse button to add highlight, and if you wanna adjust the light, you can just like hold the left mouse button and just just drag it there where you want it to be, or you can just manually hold it here and move it from here. And as you can see, that's just, it's as easy as just hitting a button on this menu to add a light source. Now it gives you a lot of those options that I've already gone through with light material. Radius makes your light source look larger. As you can see, it also changes there. Brightness makes it obviously more brighter, 10 for example, if you want it to be that bright. Blend mode, I don't think I've used this before. I think I've only used like the blend option, and that's when you have multiple light sources, so we'll go over that later. And you can change the color. If you want it to be completely red, you can do it. So we're gonna just keep it at a little red, just like pinkish a little. And fall off, you can increase the fall off, and as you can see, you have like a more, I guess, blended light source. And this is just, it just moves it around manually if you want to be super accurate. So when you are using HDRIs, you usually want to use more than one. So we can add another one. And again, you can just hold your mouse or your mouse button, your left mouse button, and you can put it there, for example, right on the sphere. And as you can see, you can kind of see it there. Maybe you don't want to like see the reflection on your object, so you're just gonna have to increase fall off. But you will still get like some kind of reflection there. And let's change the brightness to 2. So we have something there, and let's change the color to something a little blue-ish. Let's add a third one. Now I'm gonna want to put it right like behind a cube. Oops. And that's what happens when you don't have a camera. Let's just save this. Now let's go back there. And so one thing I like to do when like I can't see it right now. I can see where the light source is, but sometimes maybe I can't, and I usually like to just like go to like 10 something really high, and then see where it lands, just the light source where it lands. And so you see that you don't have that option anymore. So if you click on it and nothing happens, if you do like lose that option or something, there is just this like target button here. You just hit that, set highlight, and you can go back to that dragging mouse or left mouse button option thingy. So let's see. There we go. Wait a second. Okay, that's good. Let's just have some highlight there, and let's have another highlight on the right side. If I can get it to, there we go. Okay, now we have some highlight there too. And now again, you're gonna have to go back and change it to like whatever you want. So I'm gonna do like 1 and 2, and this is 5. That's like our, I guess this is 3. So now you have just highlights on the edges of the cube, but you want to have a light source that actually lights up the whole thing. So again, just go with like a very large number, and you can change the radius to see how it will look like, and something like that maybe. And I forgot to add a ground plane, so I'm going to do that later. So we have this, and I want it to be much lower. So 1, something that I can see the cube, but I don't want it to be super bright. And same thing here. Let's see. All right, so that's good. All right, so let's go with 1 again. And done, and let's add a geometry at a ground plane, and that would make it more realistic. So as you can see, I have what 7 or 6 light sources here, and it was super easy to just like adjust every one of them, and to add them, to move them. You wouldn't have that same luxury if you wanted to use just like regular light material. So say you're happy with your highlights and with your light sources. Next thing you want to do, you want to go back to your settings, and maybe you want it to be a little lighter, so I'm just going to keep it at 1 again, and you want the background to be completely white. So as you can see, it's like you get that darkness over there, but you also get the highlights. And this happens all when the background is completely white. And you can also go back to your HDRI editor and to your background, and you can change the background color if you want it to be more lighter, but you still have the highlights. So this is helpful when you want like multiple highlights, but you also want say like an outdoorsy environment effect, right? So I'm gonna make a blank environment, and I'm gonna go to my environments. I'm not a fan of this. Let's change this a little bit. All right, better. I'm gonna go to my environment, and I'm gonna go to outdoor. Let's see. Let's look at this. I don't like that. Let's try this one. To green. Okay, I guess this is not bad. Let's try this one. Not bad. Okay, this is pretty good, and can also turn or change your roughness, so you get that like the direct reflection of your environment maps. So I don't know, something like this maybe. Like you can see some of the reflections here, and if you go back to your environment, and since it's already on color, like the background doesn't show your applied environment, but you can change it to lighting environment, and as you can see, you have like this grassy field, whatever. But a lot of times you don't want to use that. It just looks weird. It looks absolutely weird. Don't use a lighting environment for your background. So go back to color, and you can see that you still have the effect, the background environment effect, but you want to add some more highlights. So let's see what happens. If you hit color, it just goes back to whatever it was. So you don't want to do that. You want to just do image. You want to keep it at image, and now you want to add your highlights. Say you want a highlight to be there, or like here. You want another one to be there. You want one to be there. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want. You want to play with it. You play with it. You want to make it red. Now we have some reddish effect there. Maybe the sky is a little red. Yeah, that's. I think that's a good story. The sky is a little red. You know, it's around dawn, and you know, the clouds look a little pinkish. So we have this, and which one was that? All right, let's change this to 3. HDRIs are fun to play with. As you can see, I am having fun. And just 40, doesn't matter. So that's about it. That's how or what HDRIs do. Maybe you want it to be a little darker, well, make it a little darker. Maybe you want it to have more contrast, well, add some more contrast to it from there. But next week I'm gonna go over all the image settings, so I'm not gonna go over them right now. But you don't really have to play with contrast or even brightness here, because you can just play with them here, and it makes your renders look very good if you play with the settings in the image in the image tab. Okay, so lighting performance mode. I should have probably went over that before I have gone over the environment or the HDRIs, but it's okay. So performance mode. There is also a button here. You can just turn on the performance mode. Just one thing that I had to like learn the hard way. If you turn on the performance mode while you're like doing your stuff, you're putting your solid bodies around, and you forget to turn it off and then render, you will get your render like this. It won't turn off the performance mode automatically. So you want to turn it off. Basic, I guess it's just basic. And if you change any of these things, it would go to custom. So I usually just go with custom. Like I don't use any of these presets because I don't know the difference. Let's say like you have jewelry, you want to turn on caustics, global illumination. It makes your lighting look more realistic. So I usually turn that on. I usually turn on self shadows, and I usually keep this one and the caustics off, unless I have something glassy and I want to see the caustics. Ray balances, again, if you increase these these numbers, it would make your lighting more realistic. And I don't know what this is. I don't know what it does. Smooth global illumination. I've never used this before. I should probably try to play with it to see what happens. Interior mode and product mode. Let's see what the difference is. Interior mode kind of looks better. It like adds a little more contrast. But that's about it, guys. Thank you very much for hanging out this long. I don't know how. I think it's been about 20-30 minutes. Thank you very much. Next week or 2 weeks from now, I'm gonna go over the image settings. It's beautiful. Like you really gotta see the difference. And like if you do play with these, you don't have to go to Photoshop or post-processing. It just makes your life so much easier. And let me know what you thought about this episode. Let me know if you learned anything. If you want to follow me on Instagram, just go ahead and follow me. Designed by Mehdi. It just looks. The picture looks kind of cool, but I'm not an unhappy guy like I look like in that picture. But yeah, go ahead and follow me. If you have any questions, you can just direct message me here, or you can just leave a comment. And I will see you later. Goodbye.